The world's truly legendary victories do not rely on a massive budget. They build optical illusions that trick enemy commanders into absolute panic. When we think of legendary generals, we imagine heavy tank battles. But true tactical genius belongs to masterminds of battlefield deception. These clever military leaders manipulated what the enemy saw on landscapes. Today we are counting down 10 genius historical military bluffs. They completely fooled massive armies and turned the tide of wars. We will look closely at how they pulled off illusions. Before we dive in, please like and subscribe to our channel. Hitting that subscribe button helps us bring you history videos every week. Do not forget to turn on a notification bell so you never miss a brand new deep dive episode from our production team. Let us start our global countdown with number 10, which takes us to the legendary tactical maneuvers of the ancient Han Dynasty. Number 10 is the brilliant empty fort strategy executed flawlessly by the famous Chinese statesman and military strategist Zhuge Liang. The terrifying situation unfolded when a massive enemy army of over 150,000 soldiers marched directly toward his small outpost. Zhuge Liang only had a tiny garrison of a few thousand soldiers left to defend the entire strategically vital city center. Instead of hiding or attempting a hopeless retreat, he ordered his men to throw open all the main city gates completely. He then instructed his remaining soldiers to dress as simple civilians and calmly sweep the streets in front of the gates. The sweeping was a calculated theatrical performance designed to make the enemy think the city was completely prepared for an ambush. Zhuge Liang, dressed in traditional robes, sat completely relaxed on top of the city walls, playing a musical instrument peacefully. He deliberately made eye contact with the enemy scouts while projecting absolute confidence and serene calm through his traditional melodies. The opposing general approached with his massive vanguard force and immediately suspected a massive hidden ambush inside the quiet streets. He knew Zhuge Liang was an absolute tactical genius who rarely took reckless risks or left himself completely exposed to danger. The rival commander believed that the open gates were a psychological trap meant to lure his massive cavalry units into a narrow choke point. The terrified enemy commander ordered his entire massive army to turn around and retreat, immediately saving the small garrison without a fight. This psychological victory remains one of the most celebrated examples of Eastern military philosophy, overcoming raw physical numbers through pure wits. Next up at number 9 is the incredible deception strategy used during the American Civil War at the Siege of Yorktown. The Confederate forces were vastly outnumbered by the massive Union Army marching down the Virginia Peninsula under General George McClellan. Confederate General John Magruder realized he could not win a direct battle, so he set up logs painted black to look like cannons. These fake wooden weapons became known as Quaker guns, and they completely terrified the cautious Union scouts from a distance. He placed them on prominent earthen ramparts, so they would stand out starkly against the sky on the enemy horizon. He also ordered his small force of troops to march in endless loops through clear openings in the thick forests. The soldiers would march past a clearing, disappear behind a hill, change their hats, and then march past the clearing again. To the Union observers watching through binoculars, it looked like a continuous stream of fresh thousands of soldiers arriving hourly. Magruder even had his small band play loud military music at different positions to simulate multiple massive encampments along the lines. McClellan completely bought the bluff and halted his entire massive advance for weeks while demanding reinforcements from Washington. This brilliant piece of military theater allowed the Confederate Army to stall the entire invasion force and safely reinforce their lines. By the time the Union Army realized they had been fooled by painted logs, the real defensive reinforcements had completely arrived. Number 8 takes us back to ancient Europe with the brilliant night maneuvers of the legendary Carthaginian General Hannibal Barca. The Roman army had successfully trapped Hannibal forces inside a narrow valley with only one heavily guarded mountain exit route. The Roman commander Fabius Maximus placed his elite infantry divisions directly at the pass to ensure Hannibal could not escape. Hannibal realized that a direct frontal assault against the fortified Roman positions would result in the total destruction of his army. He ordered his men to gather thousands of cattle from the local farms and tie wooden torches to their horns. In the middle of the dark night, his soldiers lit the torches and drove the panicked cattle up a nearby steep hillside. The cattle rushed through the brush, causing immense noise and scattering sparks across the dark mountain landscape. The Roman guards saw hundreds of lights moving rapidly through the darkness and assumed the Carthaginians were trying to escape there. They believed Hannibal was attempting a bold midnight breakout over the high ridges rather than using the main valley road. The entire Roman garrison abandoned their strategic positions at the main mountain pass to pursue the decoy cattle lights. Hannibal quietly marched his entire army through the now completely undefended valley exit without losing a single soldier in the process. When the Romans finally reached the top of the hill, they found themselves surrounded by nothing but confused cows and burning sticks. Number 7, we look at the incredible camouflage and decoy strategies used by the Allies during World War II in North Africa. The British military needed to hide a massive deployment of tanks before the major breakthrough battle at El Alamein. They created Operation Bertram, which involved building thousands of fake canvas trucks to hide their real armored divisions underneath. These hollow structures were placed over real tanks, so enemy spy planes only saw harmless transport vehicles from above. They also built entire dummy pipelines and fake supply depots in the southern desert to misdirect German aerial reconnaissance planes. The British even used specialized tracking devices to erase real tank tracks and replace them with fake tire marks in the sand. The German high command fell for the elaborate trap completely and positioned their defensive divisions miles away from the real attack zone. They believed the main British offensive would strike the south, where the fake pipeline construction was loudly proceeding day and night. When the real British artillery barrage opened up in the north, it caught the German forces completely off guard and altered the desert war forever. This massive illusion secured tactical surprise in an open desert where hiding massive armored forces was previously considered completely impossible. Number 6 takes us to the American Revolutionary War and the legendary tactical deception of General George Washington at Trenton. After his famous Christmas night, crossing Washington Army found itself trapped by a massive British relief force under Lord Cornwallis. The British commander, confident he had Washington cornered, decided to wait until the next morning to deliver the final crushing blow. He famously stated that they would easily bag the old fox in the morning and went to sleep with total confidence. Washington ordered a small group of soldiers to stay behind and keep the campfires burning brightly throughout the entire night. He also had his men loudly dig entrenchments and throw dirt so the British scouts thought they were staying put. The remaining soldiers walked around the fires, maintaining the illusion of a fully occupied defensive camp until the early hours. Meanwhile, the entire main American army quietly muffled their wagon wheels with rags and marched around the British flank in total darkness. They moved over frozen back roads in absolute silence to launch a surprise assault on a completely different British outpost. By the time the sun rose, the British discovered they were looking at empty campfires while Washington was already attacking Princeton. Cornwallis woke up to the sound of distant artillery fire, realizing his entire front line had been completely outmaneuvered by campfires. We have reached the middle position for today countdown of the brilliant deceptions that completely altered military history. Before we reveal the top 5, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel right now. Your incredible support helps us spend more time researching these fascinating tactical history stories for your entertainment. Leave a comment right below about which genius military bluff has surprised you the most so far on our list. Now let us jump straight to number 5 on our list, which takes us straight to the legendary Crusader eras of the Middle East. Number 5 is the psychological warfare tactics used by the brilliant Sultan Saladin during his campaigns against the Crusader armies. Saladin would often order his fast-moving cavalry scouts to raise massive clouds of dust behind hills using heavy branches. The horses would drag these large bundles of leaves back and forth along dry dirt roads to simulate massive troop columns. To the heavily armored crusaders watching from their stone castles, it appeared that a massive army of reinforcements was constantly arriving. He would also intentionally leak false letters filled with exaggerated troop numbers into the hands of suspected enemy double agents. These letters would describe massive non-existent armies marching from Egypt and Syria to join his frontline forces. The terrified Crusader commanders would panic and abandon strong defensive positions to avoid being completely surrounded by non-existent forces. They would retreat into choke points where Saladin's real mobile cavalry units could easily ambush and defeat them with minimal effort. This masterclass in misinformation allowed Saladin to conquer key strategic territories while keeping his real troop movements completely hidden. Moving to number 4, we explore one of the most elaborate and massive deception operations ever executed in modern warfare. Number 4 is the famous Ghost Army utilized by the United States military during the final stages of World War II in Europe. This specialized unit was composed of artists, sound engineers, and actors instead of traditional frontline combat soldiers. They deployed hundreds of inflatable rubber tanks, jeeps, and airplanes across the fields of France to mimic real armor divisions. These rubber vehicles could be inflated with air compressors in just 20 minutes to create a massive fake military base overnight. The unit also utilized massive speakers that could blast the recorded sounds of moving tanks across miles of open countryside at night. They mixed the sounds of clanking gears and soldiers swearing to make the auditory illusion completely convincing to German outposts. Their radio operators filled the airwaves with fake messages designed to convince German intelligence that a massive offensive was coming elsewhere. They would mention real generals and specific division names over unencrypted radio lines to guarantee the enemy intercepted the data. This brilliant illusion successfully diverted thousands of German troops away from the actual Allied positions, saving countless American lives. The Ghost Army executed over 20 separate operations right near the front lines, completely baffling the German high command until the war ended. Number 3 takes us to ancient Greece with the most famous and enduring military deception story in human history. Number 3 is the legendary Trojan horse used by the Greek forces to finally conquer the heavily fortified city of Troy. After a brutal and completely unsuccessful 10-year siege, the Greeks pretended to sail away from the beaches in total defeat. They burned their own camps and hid their massive fleet behind a nearby island out of sight of the Trojan lookouts. They left behind a massive wooden horse as a parting gift and an offering to the gods for a safe journey home. They also left behind a single spy named Sinon who convinced the Trojans that the horse would bring them divine protection. The ecstatic Trojan citizens dragged the massive structure inside their secure city walls and celebrated their apparent historic victory all night. They drank heavily and left the city walls completely unguarded, believing the long decade of warfare was finally over. Inside the hollow wooden structure, a small elite force of Greek soldiers waited patiently in total silence for the city to sleep. In the middle of the night, they crept out, killed the sleeping guards, and threw open the main gates for the returning fleet. The magnificent city of Troy was completely conquered in a single night, proving that trickery succeeds where brute force completely fails. At number 2, we look at the incredible deception operations carried out by the British forces during Operation Mincemeat. The Allies needed to convince the German high command that they were going to invade Greece instead of their real target of Sicily. The British intelligence service obtained the body of a deceased man and dressed him up as a high-ranking Royal Marine officer. They created a complete fake identity for him, including love letters, photographs, and a bank overdraft notice to make him real. They equipped the body with a briefcase containing highly detailed, fake military letters discussing a major planned invasion of Greece. They released the body into the ocean currents off the coast of Spain, where pro-German officials were guaranteed to find it quickly. The Spanish authorities recovered the corpse and allowed German intelligence officers to photograph the top secret documents in secret. The top secret documents were copied and sent directly to Adolf Hitler's desk, who completely bought the elaborate fake plans. He overrode his own generals on the ground and ordered entire tank divisions to move away from Sicily to defend Greece. This massive redirection left the real invasion zone in Sicily heavily exposed and vulnerable to the incoming Allied armada. The Allied landings in Sicily were a massive success because the German defenders had been completely misdirected by a single corps. Finally, we reach number 1 on our list, which takes us to the largest military deception in the history of global conflict. Number 1 is Operation Fortitude, which was designed to completely protect the D-Day landings in Normandy from German counterattacks. The Allies created an entire fake military unit called the 1st U.S. Army Group and placed General George Patton in command. The Germans respected Patton immensely and believed he would naturally lead the primary invasion force across the English Channel. They built massive bases filled with inflatable rubber trucks, dummy landing craft, and fake wooden airplanes directly opposite Pas-de-Calais. They even had fake soldiers moving around the camps and lighting cooking fires to simulate a force of 1 million men. Their radio networks broadcasted thousands of fake operational orders to convince German spies that Patton would lead the primary invasion there. Double agents sent continuous streams of confirmed reports directly to Berlin validating the fake build-up at Calais. Even after the real landings began at Normandy, Hitler held back his elite panzer divisions because he believed it was a mere distraction. He waited weeks for Patton's fake army to cross at Calais, allowing the Allies to secure their vital foothold in Europe permanently. By the time the German High Command realized that Patton's army did not exist, the Normandy beachhead was completely unstoppable. These legendary stories prove that absolute psychological manipulation and clever bluffs can defeat the most powerful armies on Earth completely. Thank you so much for watching our deep dive into history, most ingenious military bluffs, and battlefield deception masterpieces. If you enjoyed this massive countdown, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel right now. Your active engagement helps our independent channel grow and allows us to produce more detailed historical documentaries for you every week. We spend hours researching original military archives and tactical records to bring you the most accurate historical estimates possible. Leave a comment below about which of these tactical masterminds surprised you the most with their unbelievable battlefield illusions. See you tomorrow as we upload high-quality history videos every single day without fail to keep your historical curiosity alive.